how did you deal with your shame or deal with those feelings of insecurity, maybe feeling like you're not good enough? However that kind of played out for you as you're getting picked last. I think it's maybe something a lot of people can relate to as they're on their journey of growing.
Well, first, I think about people that still poured into me, that told me I was good enough, that gave me encouraging words. But even in that, if that wasn't the mindset that I adopted, then I would have continued to feel that way. So your belief is everything. I learned that throughout my life and growing up, especially playing NFL. Your belief and what you believe about yourself is extremely important. The most important conversation you have on a day-to-day basis.
Mhm.
It's not with your spouse, it's not with your kids, it's not with your colleagues. The most important conversation you have on a day-to-day basis is with yourself. So we might as well, and I realized that I needed to be in control of the power of my words and what I was saying to myself. So as I started to get older, starting to understand the importance of affirmations and then putting the affirmations into work as well, not just saying it, but I'm actually doing it. And what ended up happening over time is they ended up getting to the point that that's just started to be my mindset and how I thought about myself. So it was a shift and it was repetition of, all right, let's shift this and look at it a different way.
Mm, it's really good. I'll ask one question, and Master, love to pass it back to you. What do you think was the first affirmation that started to make a big difference for you? That whether how did you figure it out? Did someone tell you it? Did you read it somewhere? Like, what was the first thing that drove the change?
For me is I am enough. I am enough. When I look at nature, nature continues to show us on so many different ways of things that's been created that it is exactly what it needs to be. Like you don't need to add anything to it. Like it's exactly what it needs to be. And when I look at that, it makes me think about a lot about myself. And I go back to the three C's. I talked to you guys about that earlier. It's very, very clear when you look at nature that the three C's are very, very, it's all around us. And the first one is creating. Nature's always creating. It's always creating. The second one is connection. When you look at the rivers, the oceans, you look at all the bodies of water that's connected with each other. And the third one is contribution. So nature's always giving more than it needs to,
Hmm.
gives more than enough. It's contribution. So when I looked at that, it really started to make me think about, Edgar, you are enough. And how do you continue to work with the gifts and the talents that's been given to you? And that played a big part of me getting into the NFL. And that's one of the questions that I would ask, the individuals that's on the night is, are you tapping fully into your gifts and your talents, and the things that you do really, really well? Like no one can do it the way you can do it. Are you really fully tapping into that? And if not, what's holding you back?
Mm. Wow.
Edgar, about that, do you think everyone's got it in them to be a leader? Like, do you think everyone should be working towards that, or it's not made for everyone? Because let me give you a little bit of context about how my thought process is on that. When things are going good and people are looking up to you and they're like, wow, what a leader, that's perfect. Like, that gives you a lot of dopamine. There's a whole flow of different hormones in your body that makes you feel great. But when things start to unravel and like things are not going well, and now people look up to you and they're like, we're doomed. Like, and you have to figure out the way to find yourself where you are and to, it's not just you, but also a whole group of people that you have to carry on with you to get through that roadblock or problem. Do you think everyone should work towards that, becoming a leader, or it's not for everyone? Does that make sense?
So here's what I would say to that. I don't look at leadership as a title. I look at leadership as just action. It's about like what you do and how you show up. What I will say is everyone is in some type of leadership position. Everyone is in some type of leadership position, whether you're leading in your home, you're leading a brother or a sister or a colleague, or maybe it's your neighbor. There's someone that's looking at you. And here's the thing. Most people at times, they may not even say anything, or they probably don't know how to articulate it and say what they want to say, but they're watching. They're watching. So being able to operate from a place of, am I operating out of a space that if I was sitting down watching myself, am I proud of myself? As if somebody is watching me. So back to your question, each individual has it inside of them. And when you really start to sit down and take a deeper dive into your life, there may be individuals that may be watching it that maybe you've noticed, but we do have the capabilities and the potential.
So I think the way that go ahead.
It doesn't have to be big. It's right. It's like, well, I'm leading my brother. I'm leading my sister that's navigating through a divorce right now. Right. I'm leading one of my good college friends who started a startup, and the startup just got shut down 2 months ago. He's trying to navigate through the next phase of life. So I'm stepping in as support to listen to the questions he has, and I'm providing a framework to help him navigate through whatever challenge. That's leadership. So it's like, how do you really look at it? Like what's your outlook and what's your look on leadership? Because I don't look at it as some big thing. I look at it as the lug nuts on a tire. It's
That makes
small.
so much sense.
If you take all the lug nuts off a tire, it will fall off. It will not be good. It's those small things and looking at it as small action.
I think society is just like, a car, as you said, walnuts on a tire. And then everyone is a leader in their own area of work. Like, for instance, Dr. Milad Oji, he's silent over there. He's a doctor, he's a dentist. So whenever a patient goes to him, he's going to be the leader in doing whatever the patient is there for. He's a leader in that area, but like people are not going to go to him for heart surgery. Or like Craig, he's a business consultant. When I go to him, I expect him to be a leader in that area to tell me what to do in my business. So that's what you're trying to say, I guess, that everyone has to be a leader in their own area of expertise and they have to lead. In society, it's all giving and getting back. And when you are giving, you have to be confident and be a leader when you are giving that to someone.
And it all starts with, before we talk about the team, when I'm doing my trainings, I'm doing a workshop, I'm speaking, before we talk about the team, we got to talk about you. We have to start there. Think about the cell phones. If I sent an address, Craig, to your phone, before you put it in Waze or Maps, Google Maps, the very thing your phone needs to do is it needs to find out where you're currently at in the moment. Like, where is Craig currently at? And if your phone can't find out exactly what's your location, then we're not going anywhere. So when we look at leadership, it's like, well, what is my location right now? The one thing that every NFL locker room has in common is lockers. They all have.
I was like, man, I have no idea where this is going. I was like, I'm excited. This is gonna be crazy.
Don't worry, I'm gonna bring it back home, Craig. They all have lockers, and the best teams I've been around and the average teams, here's the difference. The average teams, before the game, at halftime, or after the game, when they go to their locker, they go sit at their stool, and instead of them looking in, they look out. They look out at the coaches, they look out at the teammates, they look out at the front office. The best teams I've been around, when those players get to their locker, the first thing they do is they look inside their locker, especially after something that did not go the way that we wanted to, after a loss or after a challenging situation. They go to look inside the locker. And here's the thing about a locker. Inside a locker, it's all your stuff. It's your shoulder pads, it's your cleats, it's your helmet. So the power of being able to look in first before I look out. So when we look at leadership, one of the most important things that I have to constantly ask myself as a leader, as a high performer is, well, Edgar, how are you doing this? How are you living this out? And through that, as you continue to do that, that A gives you conviction. And then that's where authenticity comes in as well. Because authenticity to me is living in a way that you sleep well at night. Like you're operating in a way that you can lay down and say, man, I'm going to get me a good night's sleep because I know just how I've been operating.
Basically, being proud with what you're doing, the kind of people you're around.
Proud of what you're doing, proud of your actions. And you're not going to always get it right. You're not going to always get it right. But overall, being able to look at me being proud of my decisions, proud of how I engage with people, proud of how I interact with my team, being proud of my approach that I take.
And Edgar, like with being proud, there are always ups and downs. Like there are some areas that you do what you have to do successfully, and sometimes your performance breaks. So do you think it's basically the pressure that makes that break, or is it the clarity, like not having clarity in what you're trying to do, or attention and focus?
Well, you have a focus. The question is, where is your focus?
Yeah.
That's my first NFL game. So backstory for the ones that don't know, I played in NFL for 7 years. I was not the guy that walked across the stage of Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell. I didn't get a jersey. You couldn't find my jersey in Dick's Sporting Goods. My signing bonus was $250. That's 1,000 quarters. All right. So I remember my first NFL game. I'm playing in front of 75,000 people. The most I played in front of in college was 700. So I'm in front of 75,000. My coach puts me in the game. I get the play. I have no idea on what I did. I just remember running off the field. So my coach says to me, Edgar, what are you doing? I'm like, Coach, this is a lot. He's like, welcome to the NFL. This is a lot. All right. And he says something to me that really has stuck with me. And he said, you can play in this game a long time, but you have to fix your focus to ask yourself the question, where is my focus? So back to, the clarity, the performance, the focus, we all have a focus. The question should be is, where is my focus right now? And where my focus is it adding value to me? Is it making me better, or is it draining me right now? So the power in being able to not just ask the question, but the quality of the question. And when we talk about on the performance side or the clarity is being able to see. So if I don't have a good focus, then I'm not going to be able to see anything. So let me first start with, where is your focus, and where that focus is, then we can start to dive deeper into the clarity and the performance side of it.
So what is a good way to basically, when your focus is like, I don't know, somewhere it's east, but you're in west, how do you bring it from east to west?
Good question. Man, you always got good questions.
I try.
First time my grandfather took me driving, I'm 14 years old. He puts me on the interstate at 14 years old. He makes me get in the left lane. And I'm 14 years old. I'm in the left lane. There's 18-wheelers flying past me. People are flipping me off and talking to me like I'm not a child of God. And I'm thinking, my mind is racing. My heart is beating. My palms are sweating. And then he tells me to get into the right lane. And when I get into the right lane, things start to slow down. I'm aware of my hands being on the steering wheel. My foot is on the gas. And then we get off. And as we get off, we get to my grandfather's house, and I asked him this question because at that moment in time, I didn't know. What's the difference between the left lane and the right lane? And he said the left lane was put into place for you to think and go fast. He said the right lane was put into place to get you to be thoughtful and slow down. So back to your question, when we shift from the east to the west, it's first, let me take the time to slow down a little bit. And that's counterintuitive to what society tells us to do. Society tells us to go, 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 go fast. And the best high performers that I have been around and the best leaders, when we talk about getting clarity, when we talk about fixing our focus to ask ourselves the question, where is our focus? When we talk about performance, one of the first things that we take the time to do is to slow down, to take time to slow down, to not just think, but to be thoughtful. Well, what's the difference between thinking and being thoughtful? Well, thinking is, Craig, I know I need to have a difficult conversation with you. I'm thinking. Masoud, I know I need to talk to you about your performance. I'm thinking. Thoughtfulness is, let me see how I want to approach Craig on having this difficult conversation. Let me go talk to another one of my colleagues to get their feedback on how I should approach Craig. Let me be thoughtful about looking and taking a deeper dive into why Masoud is not performing well at his job. Maybe it's something going on in his personal life. So it's not, there's nothing we have to think, but now taking a shift to being thoughtful by first slowing down. And that is one of the biggest things when you start to look at week one of an NFL season and week 15, high performers that I've been around, we are intentional on taking the time to slow us down because we understand in order to continue to sustain and evolve, we cannot keep going at a 75 per mile hour speed in the left lane. We got to shift over into the right lane to slow down a little bit.
Sometimes people do that and it's pretty annoying. People just honking behind them a lot.
Say again?
Flashers. I'm just saying sometimes people do that and it's pretty annoying. Those that don't have the culture of driving, they don't know how to drive well.
Are you guys familiar with like walkthroughs?
Yeah.
So in the NFL season, when we started to get closer to the playoffs, we spent a lot of time in walkthroughs. And walkthroughs, for the individuals that's not familiar with it, it literally is you walking through the play, taking your time step by step. And when I sit back and I look back on that, there was so much power into the attention to detail and what we were doing in the walkthrough pace.
I love, man, one of the things I heard from one of my military buddies, and they taught him this, like deep in his mind, is slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Mm-hmm.
Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. Whenever they would do like Like you can try to as fast as you want, but it's more important to be smooth and have consistency and liquidity in your motion first.
Right, right. And then what happens is it accumulates, right? So if repetition is the father of learning, so you're repping something out and you're learning something. So the better we can become at taking our time to, work through planning for a difficult conversation, the better we can take the time with better engaging and being thoughtful about engaging with our team or one of our colleagues. When things start to get fast, then you can respond in a way because your training has been preparing you for that. And that on the military side, the sports side, because we became masters at slowing down when things did get fast and it's moving. Now it's a natural response because we've been training that way. And the great teams understand this. You cannot always be in crisis mode.
Hold on. As you say that, this is a really good segue into this question that just came in from Paul. You can't, so we'll hold on to that. Can't always live in crisis mode. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but for many leaders, it's a steep challenge to own their own vulnerability and ask for help and support. What words of advice do you have for them?
Repeat the question one more time.
So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, but for many leaders, it's a steep challenge to own their own vulnerability and to ask for help and support. What words of advice do you have for them?
My question to them, and thank Paul. Paul was one asked. Paul, thank you so much for the question. That's a great question. My question back to Paul, and I would add to his question is first on the vulnerability piece and asking for help, would he want his team to ask for help? And a lot of times we want people to ask for help, but I've now learned over time is sometimes people don't know how to ask for help. So as a leader and Paul being in a leadership role, him wanting to see hopefully his team ask for help, him being able to do it as well. So now his team starts to see it. And here's the thing about it. There's nothing more powerful than being able to get in front of a leader that says, I don't know. I don't know what to do right now. What are you guys' thoughts? So when we look at taking our leadership to the next level, being able to say to your team, hey, I don't know right now. I'm struggling with this project. I'm struggling with this situation. What are you guys' thoughts on this? That's vulnerability. That's vulnerability in itself. And the thing is no one wants to be around somebody that knows it all. All right. Like we're all human. So I don't know. There's certain things I just don't know. And I've learned as well, Paul, about just saying, hey, I don't know right now. I'm working through it, but let me hear your thoughts on what you have to say to this. Or, hey, I'm struggling this week. I had a hard weekend. I'm struggling this week on this Monday call. You'll be surprised on how much that gives people permission to say, hey, you know what, Paul, thanks so much for sharing that. Gosh dang, man, I had a tough Sunday as well.
Craig, you're on mute if you don't mind. I'm
Sorry
just
about
gonna follow up with that question. Paul is saying I agree that kind of openness and authenticity should be a two-way street. Ideally, there's a but. A leader should try to lead by example. And my point of view on this is that I think showing vulnerability and asking for help is also leading by example. You're telling them that it's okay to be vulnerable and to ask questions and ask for help.
Well, I've got a good follow-up, Edgar, and this is challenging. And I've been in this situation and I've seen a lot of leaders in this situation. How do you know how vulnerable to be in front of your teams as a leader, right? How do you balance, it's hard to go out like, I don't know what I'm doing and I don't think I want to do this anymore. I think this is a terrible idea and I should just sell this business and I don't want to work with you people anymore. Like there's a point where you can say maybe too much and not need to say everything in your head. And where's the line between being vulnerable in a way that's respectful and leading people and, hey, you need to go work some of this crap out on like by yourself or with someone privately first.
So
like,
great thing you just said privately, right? That is a really good question. Like, how do you know how vulnerable you should be? Well, this is where I look at the power of having a third party. If you're on a highway, and I've driven a lot recently, I was driving down to Louisiana, and as I was driving, I drifted off. I was woken up by this loud this vibration in my steering wheel. That sound is what they call rumble strips. And rumble strips was put into place to serve as a reminder on the highway to get you back on track, to get you back focused, because I was drifting off. Similar to rumble strips on the highway, we need rumble strips in our lives, and rumble strips they're people. It could be a system as well, but people, a third party, that there's something that maybe you need to go talk about and you are contemplating if you should say this in front of your team. That's when I can have that person, that rumble strip to say, hey, Craig, I'm navigating through this. I want to share this with my team. What are your thoughts? And why that's important is because you're not inside the organization. So you're just going to call it for how you see it. And you're trusted, you have the evaluated experience, you're expert in your space. So you may give me a different approach to go talk to my team about and still be vulnerable.
So, Edgar, has there ever been a time, and as a follow-up question to that, is it okay if as a leader you just tell your team, I wish I wasn't a leader, I wish I wasn't the CEO, or like, I don't know, things like that, that you just, this is so much responsibility for me, I just want you guys to know. Is that okay to say that?
Is it okay to say, I don't feel like being a leader? Or say that again?
I wish I wasn't a leader. I wish I wasn't the CEO of this company. I wish I wasn't the boss.
Instead of wish, how about we say it this way? Hey, I'm struggling in my leadership role right now.
To your team.
To your team. Hey, I'm just struggling right now in my leadership role. I'm struggling right now in this project. So looking at it a different way rather than saying, hey, I wish I wasn't a leader. I wish I wasn't a boss. That's a whole different that's a deeper conversation we need to go into. But being able to look at it from a standpoint of, hey, I'm struggling in my role right now. I'm struggling when it comes to this new team we just took on, of these individuals that just came to the organization.
And it's okay to share that vulnerability. Like, there's no issues
I
being
don't see
transparent with your team.
I don't see any issues with that.
Okay, thank God. I've done that a few times, and I was
Yeah,
just
and here's the thing too. This is hard because you tell me what school you went to that taught you how to be vulnerable. You know, like unless you had like a teacher or a parent or a coach that showed that, like no school taught us on how to approach these things. No school, at least for me, in the high school I went to, the middle school and the college I went to, they didn't train us on how you have difficult conversations and how do you be an effective communicator.
Yeah, I love that. And it's true, right? There's no right way to do this. I think
there's no
one thing,
education on
yeah,
showing vulnerability, really. Is right.
Yeah.
I think one thing as a leader that I found that's been really helpful in my experience and working with other leaders, I've seen this be good, is having really vulnerable conversations around weaknesses and strengths with your team up front. It's like when I work with people for the first time, I like to even say, it's like, hey, I want you to know these are the things that these are not my strengths. These are things that if they land on my plate, I may not be the best at these things. And I want you to be like, to know that up front and for you to be able to call me out. Hey, Craig, this isn't good enough in this. I need help with something. Maybe this isn't the way it should be. And to give them the room, because we all, especially, I think one reason why a lot of leaders struggle is because we feel like we have to be superlative at everything we're doing, right, in our roles. And that's just not realistic. And so I think when you tell people and show people like, hey, I know that these are things that I'm still working on or things I'm developing or things that are not where I'd like them to be. And maybe they're things even that you're better at than I am. And like letting the people be better at things than you and telling them that out loud, that can take away a lot of the tension and frustration as a leader to followers and give them permission to do the same.
It really does. It really does take away as well. Being able to give that permission to them to let them know. And, you know, one powerful question I once heard my coach ask my teammates, and he asked me this as well. That is, what is it like to be on the other side of me? Like every couple of weeks when we met with him, that was the question he asked us. Hey, what is it like to be on the other side of me? And I mean, you want to talk about a question, you probably need to strap in your seatbelt. And his only rule with it was when he responded based off saying, okay, you talked about how I entered a meeting in on Friday. Tell me more about that. He wanted them to expand on what they said. And then his other rule was now he takes the response he got from the individual and he actually looks at it and says to himself, is there truth to that? And the blind spots in what we cannot see. We all have it.
So, Edgar, moving on from vulnerability, we talked about a few things, clarity and focus. You told us that whenever your focus is not at the right place, you just have to slow down. You need to set the direction. Before you start moving your focus, you firstly got to know that's where you're going with your focus. And we didn't talk about one thing. What should you do when you're under pressure? Because we're in a dental podcast and a lot of dentists, like you've heard, it has the highest suicide rate. So suicide comes from pressure. Suicide comes from where you don't know where to go next in life. And you're just like, let's end this life. So what do you do when you're under that kind of pressure? and you don't see any path forward. Like your mind is just stuck with where you are. You have it completely zoomed in only on the problems and you don't see any opportunities for yourself.
You know, the suicide is something that's very, very serious. I had a teammate that took his own life actually on my birthday when I was playing with the Kansas City Chiefs. He shot and killed himself. Wow. And I was at the facility when that took place. And that's something that will always stick with me. You know, the first thing I would say is the importance of being able to either go talk to a third party or, in addition to that, lean on your community. From what I've seen in the dental space, at least from the short period of time you individuals have a community where y'all lean on each other. So the power of being able to lean on your community and you will find out that you're not the only one that's probably battling with what's going on, which ends up playing a big part in helping in some way. So leaning on your community, having a third party that you can go have a conversation with to go talk to, and they can offer some solutions, or the community can offer some solutions as well to help you navigate through whatever you may be going through. I always go back to this as well. If you don't want to go talk to a third party, or you may not have a community, I'm big into writing. I'm a writing guy, man. There's no judgment with pen and paper. So the power of being able to write as a form of releasing as well. And I would add this to this, you know, if we're talking about high pressure situations, let's talk about the component of the team as well, right? You're feeling the pressure. You got your team. First, I would take the time to slow down, and then I would go into this framework. This is a framework I recommend with my clients and I recommend with individuals, and I use it for myself. It's called the ACTS, ACTS. When you have high pressure situations, the A is alignment. Are we actually in alignment with each other during these high pressure situations? And an example I would give is, Craig, let's say I'm your boss and Masood came into the room. It's him and I, and he asked me the question, Edgar, what's your expectations of Craig? And I told him my expectations of you. And then I walked out of the room and Craig came in. And Masood said to you, Craig, hey, Craig, what do you think Edgar's expectations of you are? And you said something totally different from what I said. We're not in alignment with each other. And alignment is important. Alignment is important with your team. It's important with your car. You have to get your wheels in alignment. So are we in alignment with each other when it comes to the expectations? Hey, what is it that you expect out of me? And what is it that I expect out of you? The C is communication. My coach used to always say, if you thought or you assumed, it didn't happen. I thought he knew, or I assumed that he knew about exactly what was happening today. So that means there was a letdown in communication. So over communicating to my team, and then also understanding that people communicate different as well. That's another rabbit hole we can dive down. So the alignment, the A, the communications, the C, the trust for the T, trust. Now, the thing with trust is there's three things that's going to tell how strong your trust is going to be in your organization, in your team, or in your relationship. Three things: time, adversity, and conflict. As you spend more time with the individuals you work with, adversity will happen and conflict will reveal itself. So if we know that at times we're going to be in pressure situations, one of the questions we should ask is, when we have conflict on the team, how do we approach conflict as a team? Because time, adversity, and conflict is happening. How do we approach having a difficult conversation? What's the approach that we take? Because it goes back to, the best teams are not in crisis mode. They put preventative measures in place. So the alignment, the communication, the trust, and then the C is subtraction. You cannot have growth without subtraction. It's the foundation of construction. As you're building a building, you're constantly removing. If you want to build a building on 10 acres, you're removing rocks, you're removing dirt, you're removing worms. Something has to go. So you're subtracting. So in those high pressure situations with your team, coming together and saying, hey, are we in alignment with each other? Are we communicating great? Do we really have trust right now? And what is it that we can subtract? Because complexity is the enemy of execution. I don't go to Cheesecake Factory because there's too much on the menu. How can we simplify in high pressure situations? And Masood, back to your question, when you look at the NFL playoffs, the deeper we get into the playoffs, in week 1, we install 100 plays. By the time we get to week 13 or 14 or 15 of NFL season, we're only running 10 to 12 plays. So we've had a reduction. It's high pressure situations. Now we're simplifying. we're simplifying it as much as we possibly can.
So one thing I just wanted to quickly add, I mean, I'm a big fan of psychology and neuroscience. Like besides what I do with AI and like, the business side and everything, the company, I really love neuroscience and psychology. And I think one important aspect of a leader is to know psychology. And I can debate on that for hours and hours because psychology helps you learn people, basically read them like a book. And one important thing that basically happens, I don't know if you've played this game, that a bunch of people just stand right next to each other, and then you say something to the first person. That first person says that to basically the second person, second goes to the third, and by the time it gets to the 10th person, it's a completely different thing. And it happens all the time, no matter what. So every time something passes on from someone to the next person, there are a whole bunch of biases that gets put into that. There's a whole bunch of basically modifications from their own viewpoint that gets put into that. So I think in terms of the communication that you mentioned within a team and a group, it's very important that once you're passing something to someone, like the way that I'm going to say one thing to you should be different than the way I'm going to say it to Craig. Because I need to know how Craig thinks and I need to know how Craig is going to interpret that internally. Does
Yeah,
that make sense?
it makes total sense. It makes, even in sports, I'll start with defense. Defensive players are wired differently. The defensive linemen, they're what I call drivers. Defensive linemen have to deal with offensive linemen up front. They get straight to the point. So when you're dealing with someone that's wired like that, they don't care about a story. They just want to get straight into the facts. The linebackers are all into creativity, collaboration. Let's come together. Right? They're kumbaya. Hey guys, let's work this out. So when you're dealing with them, there's a certain approach you got to take. The secondary, the safeties and the cornerbacks, all they care about is numbers. What does the data say? That's it. So when you're talking to them, you got to present them with that. And then the special teams, they're all about the coming together as well. So you have to be a little bit more careful when you're going to go have conversations. And we're all wired in different ways. And I'll add to the communication piece. We used to do this thing called locker before the huddle. And our coach knew that anytime we were navigating through a challenging situation, one of the worst things he can do at times was try to bring us all together to discuss it right away. So he would do locker before the huddle because he understood that sometimes information can get missed because of bandwagon bias, right? Like, let's say Craig is like the Hall of Famer in the room or the high performer, and Craig says something. And because Masouf, you and I don't feel like we probably can say anything, we'll just agree with what he says. And it's like, hey, man, like we're going to go with what Craig says, right? Some people feel like that what they're about to say may sound stupid. I've been there before, like, man, I don't know if I want to share this. This is going to sound stupid. And then the third thing is the message can get drowned out by the noise. So he would have us do locker before the huddle. He would present us with the issue, and then we all could submit our individual response on how we felt. And then we would come together to discuss it more as a team. And that played a big part in helping us navigate through challenging situations. And it also helped with people feeling like their voice was heard as well. And that comes back to the human connection. People want to feel like they're heard. They want to feel like they're needed. They want to feel like they're a part. It's why we tailgate, we get into fraternities, we get into sororities. Connection.
Connection. That's very true. That's what it all comes down to. And just about that, another interesting question that Paul asked. Um, when you're leading, when you're a leader, and you need to make a bunch of decisions, some of which your team is gonna like, some others they're not gonna like it, and they're gonna be like, "What are you doing? Like, do you know what you're doing?" And you still have to go ahead with those decisions because it's probably coming from some kind of knowledge or context that they do not have, and you cannot share it with them just yet before you get to a certain point. So, how can you make sure that while you're navigating this, like suppose, I don't know, you're a leader of an army, and then you say we have to go to this war, and then your army says, "No, why do you want to go to war? All of us are going to die." But then you've seen in the movies that that leader basically convinces the whole army to go into war with him, and everyone dies exactly as they said. But they still trust him and they have a lot of credibility for that person. How does that happen? How can you make sure you keep that trust while your whole team is against you?
How can you make sure you keep the trust when your whole team is against you when it comes to decision making? and you still go with that decision, correct?
Yeah. Sorry, it was a simple question. I just made it very hard, challenging.
Process. At times in any role that you will have to make decisions that everybody or a couple people will not agree with. That is the difficult part about leadership. And sometimes you may be wrong. I'm a husband, I'm a father. There are certain decisions I make at times. My wife's like, I don't think you should do it. I'm like, yeah, I think I should. And I'm wrong. Now, the ramifications of the ripple effect of that decision, that's the thing we have to take into consideration. If this is the wrong decision, what's the ripple effect of this? And not just the ripple effect above the pond, but what's the ripple effect of when the stone hits the bottom of the pond that I can't see potentially? This is when I go back to being able to have that third party again that you can talk to about your decision making, that they can ask you more powerful questions to get you think about, is this the right decision to make? But also understanding that in our role, you're not always going to make decisions that people will agree with. At times people won't agree. They may not like it. And that's the difficult part about the shoes that we wear, But I will go back to the importance of preparation, collecting my information, the data. What does the research say? Maybe I've talked to one person about it that I trust that can give me some good input and advice as well. And then from there, I just got to make my decision.
And I think one thing that's also very important as a leader, the more you lead a certain group of people and the more you build that trust, you're basically buying yourself pretty much like a credit card that has a limit. So when you start making those hard decisions that your team doesn't agree with, and depending on how that decision is going to end up, because your team told you not to do that, but then you did it anyways. Depending on how that's going to turn out, I think it either adds to your credit or deducts from your credit. And then there's only a limited certain amount of credit you have. So they're not going to keep listening to you if your decisions are not the right ones and they are telling you what to do.
Yeah, it's like the boy that cried wolf, right? Like you keep doing this over and over and over again. So here's also what I would say. And Paul, that's another great question. Now the question is, well, what happens if you make a mistake? How do you approach your team then? And I've been on the side of, man, I made a mistake, but I don't want to go say anything to anybody about it. Or, hey, I made a mistake and now I'm going back to the team and say, hey, I made a mistake on this. I apologize. I mean, that's vulnerability, right? Like being able to show that you're human, that, hey, I messed up, I made a mistake, and I'm coming back to my team to be able to let them know that I made a mistake. So to me, in that situation, depending on what we're looking at, that is a deposit. Even though I didn't make the smartest decision, things didn't go the way that we thought it should, but I had the courage enough to go back to my team and let them know that. I've seen situations where that ended up being a deposit.
Totally.
Yeah.
Makes so much sense to me.
I know Lisa had one more question too, and we got 3 or 4 minutes left. I want to make sure we're keeping on time for everybody. Lisa said, Mr. Jones, when stepping into a new leadership role, what strategies do you find the most effective for building trust and credibility with your team early on? Which I think that ties in really well there.
The credibility, the trust, that's a great question, Lisa. Getting them involved like out the gate, getting them involved by their feedback, getting them involved by learning more about them. I've talked about the GPS framework. When you're in your leadership role, you're just stepping into it. Obviously, things are new. These are new individuals. Finding out, what does growth look like for them? Hey, what does growth look like for you in your role? Because sometimes what I think growth looks like for them and what they think is 2 totally different things. The P is purpose. Letting them know the purpose of their work and why it matters. When people understand the purpose of their work, that's buy-in because they feel like they're a part. They feel like they're needed. Hey, the purpose of your work is this. It's a big, big part of our organization. Here's why it matters. The S is success. What does success look like for you in your role? Taking the time to listen to them, because what I think success is and what they think success is 2 totally different things. So that gives me a chance to build my relationship with them. And then out of what they gave me, we start to work on putting something into place that's in alignment with the feedback they gave me. That's how I build trust, because now I not only listen to what you had to say, I'm now acting on what you had to say as well.
It's really good. Man, we want to thank you so much for coming and spending time with us. I know I get so much out of this. There's always, and I like that whenever we talk, it's kind of like hanging out, right? It's trying to just be real and enjoy communicating and not needing to present anything. It's like, hey, these are the real questions that I think most leaders face. And Masood, I think when you ask these questions, sometimes it feels like, man, like these are real. These are like close to heart for you and things you've either seen or experienced, et cetera. And I think that makes it so, man, so tangible for people
Genuine.
listening.
Yeah.
Thank you all as well. I'm I'm human and I'm navigating through these things as well. And these were a lot of great questions. And always enjoy. I don't look at this as just speaking. I look at this as just like, hey, we're going to sit down and have a conversation in the front yard, just sitting down and talking to each other.
We just don't have beers.
Yeah, we just don't have beers. But no, thank you all for having me on. Thank everybody for joining. Great questions out of Lisa and Paul, and thank everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, we'll
Thank
hope
you
to
so
see you
much,
on the next one next month on the DentMent webinar. See you next time.
Thank you, guys.